Okay, it's 5:30, so I want to go ahead and start because you guys can always, look at this later. Um, today's a holiday, but I wanted to share this information because um, we did a session yesterday morning with about 28 people who had, um, I think we had probably double that actually emailed or messaged and said that they wanted information on grants, on the City of Austin grants. So we did the session one yesterday, and for some reason I had an issue with the recording, and it didn't record. So this is session two that I am recording. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that this thing is actually recording. Um, and so that we can share this to the group, and that way, it's not possible for me to respond to everybody. I think, like I said, when I looked earlier today, it was like 78 people had emailed about this information, about getting this information regarding City of Austin grants. So we're going to go ahead and do this session two, uh, and hopefully we are recording. So for some reason, I couldn't figure out on Facebook Live to share the screen. So, old faithful Zoom, came back to Zoom, and I actually know how to do it here. So I'm going to do it here. So get ready, and I'm going to share the screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so here we go. Where are we? It's, um, okay, I'm going to figure out how to. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So City of Austin grants. This is for their 2026, which means next year. You apply now for yet next year's events, in the paperwork it tells you the time period you have to create a program um, during a certain time period. But I think the end date is like December of 2026, starting sometime in January. I believe that's just your time to actually host an event. So this is just an info session. I just thought it would be really good to share this information. This is just information that I have, and I wanted to pass it along. Hopeful that people who look like me would apply for the grants, because there is money out there for programs that you're doing in the community, and I just wanted to make sure you had that information. All right, who am I? Um, if you don't know who I am, I'm Anita Roberts. I'm a retired Army officer, public affairs officer. I had a really great career, 30 plus years in the military. Retired in 2008 and got recalled, got personally called to serve with on President Obama's inauguration public affairs team. So got called one more time um, for Obama. And this time it wasn't as good as going to DC. I had to go to Afghanistan for this one, but Obama had promised to bring 50,000 troops home. And, you know, I'm a PR officer, wanting to tell a story, and that's what I did. So I left the military, created a company. I sold that company and then created a nonprofit. And so that's really how I um, really have the means to do some of the work that I do, because I was able to sell that company and then create this nonprofit. And so that's why we self-funded a lot of what we do. Um, but but there are grants and things like that out there. I'm also an investor. We have, in another capacity. Um, a leader is a word. Um, I pray that I can offer value to the community. I'll just say that. I've also received, we've written and received over $1 million in grants since COVID. So since 2020, we've received I've written grants, and this is local, state, federal grants that we've gotten for a lot of our different projects. So, um, I guess, we're doing something right. So I wanted to share the information that I have. So my goal, we're just trying to help you to figure out if you have some type of idea that you're already doing, right? Or that you could do and you have the capacity to do, and create something for the city of Austin grants. So 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 the funding programs that the city of Austin have, um, they have several programs for 2026. I'm not as familiar with most of those on there. I'm very familiar with Elevate, which is the STAR, and that is actually the grant that I'm talking about, the one that I'm familiar with, the one that I've done. I will tell you that Nexus and Thrive, Thrive is kind of connected to Elevate, but it's bigger funding. So, but you only get to apply for Thrive every other year. And so this is not a year you can apply for Thrive. So even though it listed and this is the website here is the website that you can go to, and this is the actual website that shows you all the grants, when and where to apply. There's a lot of information there. To me, it's kind of convoluted, so I wanted to, try to make it a little bit easier. So that's the only reason why we're doing this. Um, so again, Elevate is going to be the grant that I'm specifically talking about, but just be on the lookout if you get on the City of Austin's cultural um, department. If you get on their mailing list, then you'll get the notifications as well. But again, this is the website you can go to. Just copy and paste this, and you can go and see all the City of Austin grants, and or you can just Google City of Austin cultural grants. I took this from the City of Austin website just because I wanted to show, um, again, these are all the grants that they have currently. I'm specifically again talking about Elevate Grant, and these are all the people or groups that can apply for this, for this particular um, grant. So it is arts, a nonprofit organization, a creative space. So if you have a space and you want to, and you can use that space to host events, then you can also apply. Also, non-arts nonprofits can also um, apply, as well as, here's the other list of other. The other one that I did want to mention was if you're an artist, an actual artist who's out there, you're trying to make it, you've got a skill and you want to put on your own one man, or band show, you can do that as well. So you can actually apply as well. So it's for individual artists, professionals, independent promoters, so people who are promoting events. So again, I just want you guys to know that there's a lot of categories that you can fit in. So you don't have to just fit in, like you have to be a nonprofit. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You can be an artist. You can be an organization that actually is for profit. So for profit businesses are here too. And really, the goal is really just to showcase the creative side of the people, in our community. All right. So applicants must be 18 years old or 18 years of age or older. Of course, the conflict of interest, you have to comply with that. You have to live within the Austin, Round Rock metropolitan area, the MSA. So if you're in Pflugerville, that's in the Austin area. And the other key thing that I want you to know is you you don't have to live. You can live in Georgetown. You can live in in other areas, as long as the work that you're doing, most of the work that you're doing is in the city of Austin. If it's in the Austin MSA, that's it. Okay, you just have to also, you don't have to live. If you live here, that's great. But they want you to live or be based. Your business is based in the Austin Round Rock metropolitan area. Of course, they want to make sure you comply with the grant and that you're using the money for what you say you're going to use it for. Um, and you can only apply for one grant per year. So if you have an idea, you can apply for money for that specific idea. If you have several, you can apply for, you know, so if you have a book festival or a artist show, if you want to do both of those, it just has to be one event. It has to be one application for those two events combined, right? So and they have to meet the criteria, which means you have to host those events between that whatever that time period is. I don't want to say because I want to make sure that you look at the grant paperwork to make sure that you're following that guidance. What else? Produce events and activities that are open to the public for Austin residents, visitors, and tourists. It doesn't mean that, or let's say what that does mean is, if you have a private space, cigar bar or something like that, you can host events as long as it's open to the public. It just can't be a private event where, only certain people can come. It has to be open to the public, meaning that even if you sell tickets, you can sell tickets. It can be for profit. If you sell tickets, as long as it's open to the public and Austin residents and visitors and tourists, are able to come. And the reason why I wanted to share is here, the reason why they want visitors and in the community to attend those events is because if you look here, it says hot. So Cultural Arts Fund is made up of what they call hotel occupancy tax. So that means, the visitors that are coming into town and, there's a tax on, on when you stay. And so part of that fund, part of that money goes to a fund. And this is where all this grant money is. So that's all. Okay, I pulled this from the website. I don't and it also talked about the types of projects that can be funded. So it can be a public event or performance. So funding for the production of a public event, performance, and artistic activities. It can be so that's one, exhibitions. So support for public art exhibitions. Three, it could be workshops, classes, and camps. Projects that involve teaching and training in the arts, as long as it's art, is based. Um, for public or art projects, so a creation and installation of public art. So if you're an artist and you build a public installation, and basically you'll get funding to support, the creation of this installation of whatever that is. And again, it just has to be public. Um, another one is creative, administrative, and operational expenses. The grant can be used for a wide range of costs directly related to the production of creative activities, including staff, marketing, and supplies. They just don't want, you know, the majority of your money going into the staff, marketing, and supplies. I'm just telling you do your budget, because what's really important is that the money is going to the artists, to the creative people that are actually that we're serving, right? That are there to showcase their talents, because they want to help, to make sure that they have a good quality of life. Um, Considerations for the project, making sure that it's public, like I said, it has some type of public impact. The project must be accessible to the public and promote Austin's diverse arts and cultural sector. I mean, look, we diverse. Whatever we do is going to be diverse, and it's as long as what you're doing supports um, us and other people, to let them know our background, right? We're you know, um, showing people who we are. Cultural vibrancy. That's what we do every single day. So I thought that would be interesting, but I just pulled that off again. I just Googled what is the Elevate grant used for, and that's where I got that information. So I went through the applicants And then, so the purpose, we've already talked about that, to fund musicians, artists, cultural organizations, and heritage projects. So we talked a little bit. I think I kind of already discussed that piece. Um, so there's a three-step application process for the Elevate grant specifically. But again, some of you may qualify for other grants. So also take a look at, what the other grants are, because you might be eligible for other grants. But specifically, this is the process that I saw for the Elevate grant, and I would assume that this works for the other ones as well. And when I shared with the other group in our first session that there was no three-step process last year or anytime we've ever applied. This is something new. I'm not sure why it changed, but there was a lot of um, how would you say, people weren't happy about this process because I know when I saw the some of the emails about the grant program, and they did a survey. They actually wanted, to me, at least what I saw was they looked like they wanted to take off the cultural part of this grant and just make it artist based. Like, okay, well, we don't really care about, preserving Black culture or preserving Hispanic culture. They just want, if it's artist based. So I'm glad um, that they didn't remove the cultural piece. However, I believe, they did this three-step process to also make it a little bit more difficult. So this is what happens. So the first step is there's an intake form. So when you go onto the City of Boston website, there's an intake form. You apply, it says apply, and you go in there and they'll ask you general information, and then you'll have to select the actual grant specific that you're looking to apply for. And once you complete that form, I think it's only like it's one page. It's not a lot of questions, but that's the first form. So after you do that, I think they said 4 hours or something, you should get an eligibility form. And so that's, form number two. And so this form is supposed to confirm your eligibility. And so I had mixed up the deadlines, but the deadline on this, I grabbed this date specifically from the City of Austin website. December 4th is the deadline, and let me tell you, they, when people have deadlines, they are specific about, the day and the time. So I always say get it in, a day before. So these two forms are important because the intake form is your first opportunity to share what the project is that you're trying to do, right? And then on the eligibility form, it's kind of geared toward guaranteeing that you are eligible to put on that particular event. So my background is in PR and marketing, so it's all in how you frame things, right? So that's where I believe there may be a hang up. And then so after these two forms, you should within, I think they said, how many days? Within 4 days, I think they said after the form number two, you should get the application. And so like I said, this is new because step one and two wasn't there prior to this year. But now you will only get the application to submit the full application if they deem you eligible for one and two, right? So, I think that makes things a little bit more difficult, but we've got to follow the rules and we do what we have to do. But those two steps really are important because you got to make it through the first two steps to even get the application. right? And so then once you get the application, you have until December 11th to actually apply for the grant. And I will tell you that the grant application is extremely comprehensive, at least, in past times. There's a lot of information that they're asking for, and you get graded on, a certain grade on each specific area. But that's the three-step process that they have this year. So the application, I'm sorry, the intake form opened on October 14th. And so we applied, I think, October 14th. When we got our eligibility form, I think there was an error when I went back in to look at the application or the forms. I saw there was an error, so we reached out and told them that there was an error and we needed to change. So they opened it back up um, so we could correct that. And so that was probably 2 days ago. And they said it takes about 4 days before you'll get the application after that, if you're eligible. So, you know, provides your basic applicant information. That's what the intake form and the eligibility forms will do. It allows you to select the programs of interest. And again, you can find this information on the ACME. And again, this acronym, at least I've never seen it before, but that's the big thing now. So found on it's the City of Austin cultural website, but again, we have a link to it as well. But you can find the intake form, which was step one. Eligibility form, like I said, automatically sent after the intake form. That must be submitted by December 4th. So step two is, you have to submit these two forms before December 4th so that you can get the application so that you can apply, right? And then, of course, only approved applicants will move on to the next stage, which is the application stage. And again, so whatever that date was that they said that they started sending out the intake form, you wouldn't have got the application before October 21st. And then only eligible applicants will get the link to apply for that. And it has to be submitted by December 11th by 6:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So are you ready? Are you guys ready to fund your idea? So my, of course, trying to let you guys know, number one, that there are things out there that you can do, you can get funded for. So I was thinking, okay, well, how about a 30-minute kind of session to just talk about what you're looking at doing, and so we can frame it and make sure that you get through, phase 1 and 2. To help you clarify the mission, because that's one of the things that they ask you for, making sure your mission goes along with, the project that you're completing. I didn't. So my thoughts were, you can book a session with me, in, of course, a limited time, but so we can help you clarify your mission, identify your specific funding opportunities, making you move a little bit more confidently through the process. Limited spots, but I've got a little sign up form here. You can sign up if you're interested. And of course, this is just, my normal rate, honestly, is $500 an hour, just because of the work that I do. But, again, this is strictly if you would like help in formulating your idea and getting through those, helping you get through those first two steps. But I believe that you guys can do this on your own. But if you need a little extra help, I'm here. Okay. Offers there. So right now, I think because it's 6 o'clock on Halloween night, we don't really have any questions because I didn't let anybody into the group in the chat, because once I do the share screen, I can't see anything. So, but if you have questions, let me know, and I'll definitely do my best to answer them. What else? But at the end of the day, opportunities don't happen. We got to create them, right? And then the other saying that I thought was really cool was the way to get started is to quit talking about it and begin doing it. All right. So good luck to you guys. I really I pray that I'll see you guys on the other side. And please invite me to your events once you get funding. All right. Okay, let me see. Yeah, the stuff was great. All right, my screen went dark, so I can't see. There we go. There we go. All right. We stopped the screen recording.